Yeah, so there was a recent death on the Taconic going northbound between Austining and
Exit 6
Yorktown.
and 8.
What seemed to have happened is a Sprinter van was coming the wrong direction, left the southbound lane, crossed the median, and went into the northbound lanes. 4 people died, except the driver of the Sprinter van. The 3, I believe it's 2 or 3 people in his van
Died.
and the driver of the other vehicle in the northbound lane. And I think maybe they said a 5th person died after.
Oh, really?
But I don't want to disclose that as 100%, but I do believe maybe a 5th person
Well, you
has
know
died.
what? If he stays alive, he's just gonna. It was meant for that to happen, for him to suffer the rest of his life, because you killed 5 people.
And I will say the whole motto of Schwick Wheels is ride together, stay together, live forever. That is all based, I have chills, from the Taconic. Yeah. We are returning from Mamaroneck, from one of our very first car shows. And we are driving northbound, and it's stopped. Yeah. And when we finally get to it, we actually had a friend of ours who knew we were out for a car show and actually was stuck in the same traffic as us later because he was coming home from Long Island, and he was afraid it was us. So much for being here today.
Thank you, Shari, for having me.
Yeah, you are one of those really unique people who gets to see me at work as
And
like Sharon.
Technical Sharon in the meetings.
Yes. Oh my gosh, can you imagine? Yes, you are one of the people who has to deal with me in meetings. Shall we just go right to that? Like, what is it? What is it like being in a? Okay, disclosure. I am not the best at team meetings. I like team meetings, and I just want to say, because you are usually a guest speaker at these meetings, I just want you to know, as a friend and as a colleague, I always go into a team meeting, no matter who it is, and I want to say, you're not going to raise your hand today, Sharon.
But it just goes up. No, I like the questions.
Oh, thank you.
I like you to participate in the meetings,
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So.
Under pressure, sitting in the studio at my house. Yes, Sharon, I like your questions.
I love your questions, Sharon.
Oh my God,
I'm locked in the podcast room.
I know that you signed up for 90 minutes worth
Bryce
of questions.
the bouncer.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, Bryce has many hats. He's the bouncer. He's the emotional support.
Yeah.
He's the information specialist. Whatever. Digital media production director.
Oh no, this is great. Good stuff.
We also have a very interesting way of how we met each other in terms of, because I'm more than a member. I'm a client where my tenure or my introduction to real estate is really later in life. Obviously, it's very fresh, even still, and it starts with us making purchases and starting that. We didn't know at the time, but starting that investment, that wealth management life. And you are, unbeknownst to you, my agent, who we must have on one of these days, is Lisa Bucalo from Houlihan Lowstone. She is a top agent, recommend her highly. And she's our agent, and we're looking for a home. And we are now looking in Mayapack at the time. And you are our mortgage loan officer.
Billy's,
Yeah.
Billy. I've been in this business for 25 years. I've yelled at 2 clients. Billy's one of them.
That's awesome.
Billy yelled at me. So I yelled back. But I just loved him, though. He was just a down-to-earth. He wasn't yelling at me. He was just yelling at the process.
Yelling at life and yelling at the process.
Life, construction dudes. I get it. But yeah, only 2 clients have I had it out with. Him being one of them.
That's hilarious.
And another one. This was way back in the day.
Yeah.
And him I didn't like. He was a know-it-all, screaming at me, and I lost my shit on the phone with him.
Yeah.
And that was the end of him.
But
then you stepped in as the angel, and you got Billy to calm down. You said, "What do you need?" I said, "This is just what I need. Tax returns."
I'll get you the tax statements.
Yeah, that's it. Billy's yelling in the background.
And then the rest is history, as they say. So then fast forward quite many years. You and you're in my Camaro. I pick you up in the Camaro and the ZL11LE. Almost misspoke. I'm gonna have haters now. Yeah. I pick you up in the Camaro, and we're co-hosting an open house together.
Yep.
I forget. Maybe it was on Archer.
It's
I think.
On 6N, off 6N.
Yes, it's on Archer, and we're just talking shop, you and I, and you're asking me, you're getting to know me, and I was like, yeah, my husband and I, we run a construction safety and health consulting firm, and you're like, huh, what type of construction? I go, New York City commercial construction. You're like, huh, I had a guy once.
These OSHA guys make a ton of money. I'm always saying it. And you're like.
And you're like, you keep talking, and you're like, I don't remember his name. It was a really difficult last name, and I'm just like driving along, and you're like, I think it was either like a Robert or a William, and I went, was it a William Schrikrath? And you were like, yeah,
that's the name.
That's the
Can't
name.
Forget that
and
name.
I was like, you're looking at her, and you were like, get
I didn't say worse.
It was. Listen.
I know.
I can say it all twice.
Right.
Backwards, blindfolded, all of it.
No, like I said,
that's hilarious.
I thought he was a funny dude. I thought he was a funny guy.
He is a funny guy.
Listen, we closed the deal.
Yeah.
But it's funny how all those years later, that's how we.
Yeah.
You know.
So let's start there, and then we'll kind of fast forward through like the process because you are from Prosperity Home Mortgage. And that is an affiliate of Houlihan Lawrence, which is a child of Berkshire Hathaway. Like I tell people, we work for Warren Buffett, some kind of, sort of.
At least for the next year.
At least for the next year. Hey, listen.
God bless him, 95
God bless him. Right.
God bless him.
Do you want to work till you're 95?
I might have to with 3 kids. Me and my buddies always talk about this. I'm like, because I'm 55, so I'm like, all right, how much longer am I going to go with this?
Right.
Then I'm like, all right. 70-ish, because you could grind through this.
Yes.
It's not like I'm digging ditches.
Take as much or as little as you can push.
But it's also a grind. It's
100%.
It's commission based. So, but I'm figuring 70-ish. But my uncle, he was a commercial realtor till he was in his early 80s. So you could do it. What else am I doing?
Where am I going?
What am I doing? My wife's a teacher. She's not retiring. She's younger than me. So
right.
I'd be 70-something when she retires. So
yeah, me and Billy have that same dynamic that you and your wife have a little bit.
I remember you saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll be in Florida alone, or
he's about to be in Florida alone. Then you can be best friends.
I'll hang down there with them.
I remember when I yelled at you.
Really, he's much bigger than me, so yeah, I could yell at him over the phone.
You can hold your own with Billy. You're pretty big. You're pretty. You know what you're doing in the gym. But let's go through, let's talk to that first home time buyer, in that shock and awe of paperwork, because you know what happens to me. So I'm Shari Schwick, by the way, is Shari Sells. Okay, so one and the same person, Clark Kent, whatever, right. However you see me, that's who I am. But affectionately so, you have well-meaning, optimistic, hardworking first-time buyers who come to me, and what do they always say, Austin? Sharon, I want my budget to be $450,000 or $625,000, and I go, great, and I say, are you approved for that? Yeah. And then that's usually a phone call to you, which has happened many a times, and so talk to us a little bit to that first-time home buyer of, okay, this is the dream. Now let's make it possible. This is what I need.
Right. So we always try to establish their comfort zone first. Forget about the purchase price.
Yeah.
What are you comfortable spending per month? And I always have the conversation with them, just like if they were my own kids.
Yeah.
You know your budget better than me. You know your budget better than anybody. So you may be qualified for $1 million mortgage. However, you may only want to spend $5,000 a month because you like to go away. You like to go out to dinner. Whatever you like to do.
You have an old dog that has vet bills.
You have vet bills. You want a nice car. So you're maybe pre-approved for more money, but you may only want to spend this. So we always we start off the conversation of roundabout price range, roundabout down payment, and what do you want to spend per month? And then we sort of tweak it back to that.
Yeah.
You know?
And then what is the typical paperwork Because then I get the deer in the headlights, like, he's going to want so much stuff. I'm like, you got to, there's a little bit of like, you got to eat it one bite at a time. But like, what is that, like that standard list of documents that people should start thinking about?
But, I always let them know from day one, collect your W-2s, have them in front of you. Collect your pay stubs. If you're self-employed, have your tax returns available. Have your bank statements available. Driver's license, that type of stuff, just so, everything's available. And that's what they're going to start to gather as they go through the process. And everybody's different, every borrower. If you're a teacher and a cop, it's W-2s and pay stubs. That's pretty much it. If you're self-employed, well, we have to dig a little deeper. It's tax returns, it might be bank statements, might be CPA letters. So everybody's a little different, but the standard is we have to show their income, their assets, we look at their credit and that type of stuff.
Right. We've had, in a good way, but it's also, at least for we're Gen Xers together. What's been a little bit different, like running this podcast, and I've been opened up to this world of these entrepreneurs, these small business owners who are like starting at 16 years old, 18 years old. Now they're like 25, 28, doing really well small business wise, really creating a career for themselves. Some of them even pulling in the six figures, but falling sometimes into some traps in terms of, like, oh yeah, I had this wonderful client. I don't take a 1099 from them. Like, what are some pitfalls that you've been dealing with, or not even pitfalls, but like just some things that make it a little bit harder dealing with independent contractors, even in general? Because Billy was well into his 50s when we came into you, or was turning 50 that year rather. Just being an independent contractor and like setting up those healthy habits now. Like, what would you recommend?
If I'm dealing with the self-employed buyer or who's going to be a buyer, I tell them. And then I'll get into a little bit of what we're offering instead. But
please,
we look at your tax returns, and we're going to look at your adjusted gross income.
Adjusted
gross income.
And what does that mean for those who don't know?
Net income.
Okay.
What you show, what you're paying taxes on. So, for example, you make $1 million a year, but you have an aggressive accountant, and he brings you down to $500,000 a year. With write-offs, deductions, expenses. We qualify you on the $500,000, not the $1 million.
Yes.
So it could affect your qualifying for a certain home, because of
it's
the
a game, right?
So, I've had over the years, plenty of conversations. If you're going to be buying a home, you're going to want to show more money, as you continue your home search, but it's 2 years tax returns. So what we started doing the last year or so, it's more of a non-traditional type of underwriting where we know you're self-employed. We know you take a ton of write-offs. We know you have an aggressive accountant. It doesn't mean you're not going to pay your mortgage.
Right.
Your credit's good. You have a healthy down payment.
Right.
So now we have some alternative type programs, non-traditional, where, all right, we're going to look at your bank statements and look at your deposits. All right, so you may make $1 million a year as a landscaper. So every month you're showing $100,000. We can now use your 12 months deposits for qualifying. So it's personalized for entrepreneurs, for self-employed borrowers. It's great. We've been doing more and more of these loans. I think I spoke about it at the meeting. Last year we did, $4 million. This year we're up to, $10 million. We've doubled it in these type of loans where they're geared towards self-employed borrowers. You may have a ton of money in the bank. You may be retired. You may have a ton of money in your 401k. You're just not showing a lot of money. We can now use that asset for qualifying.
I want to ask you, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. So we're really opening up from your traditional income, assets, Fannie Mae, that type of stuff. It's not subprime. Do you remember back in 07, 08?
And then that bubble burst, baby.
Bubble burst. So it's not that, but it is the guidelines are a bit looser than, traditional mortgages.
Gotcha. I want to ask you about a 401k clarification. And then I just want, the young guns to hear us loud and clear, because I've even been on the guilty side of this, not naming names because I don't want to be audited myself. But I remember, there's a young entrepreneur getting started and then not coming to me for a 1099. We spent enough money where it would been, and then I find out that this young man is house hunting. And I said, what are you doing? I said, you should have had this from me last year to prove your income, so there's like this misnomer with this age of like, oh, but it's okay, I don't need one. Or, I mean, I'm up against it because of just the car community, and then the switch. There's this switch that seems to need to happen, and it's just a matter of confidence. I also think it's a matter of just assertiveness, communication. That yeah, it's cute and all when you're 16, 17, 18 years old, but then when you're starting to get into your life skills, that you really need to be switching that mindset as to
right. I'm going to be buying a home, so let's prepare for the next 2 years.
right.
So if it's sending out your 1099, and again, we now have a program for 1099s.
Yes.
Where we could use 90% of the 1099 income as opposed to your tax return.
Because I know you've helped me with, with applications where someone is a career waitress, a high end, high yield waitress.
Yeah.
Someone that's we've dealt with. What are some other things that we've dealt with? Traveling RNs, traveling
so they have
nurses,
multiple pay stubs.
Yes.
And we truly want to get everyone approved. I know we can't, but we truly try to piece it together to where it's an approvable loan.
Sure.
Especially in this market where there's not a lot of inventory, there's not a lot of volume. We're trying to make every loan work. It's tough. I mean, thank God I own a home, you own a home, but I look at the younger kids, the late 20s. I feel bad.
Particularly in the area that we are, which is the tri-state
in the Westchester
area.
Westchester, you can't even get a starter home for $500,000.
It's crazy.
And if you're going to put down 10% plus your closing fees, I mean, you're going to need, $75,000, $100,000 liquid. These are kids out of college who are ridden with student loans.
Yeah.
That's another shoe to drop. But
Yep.
So now you have that.
Oh yeah, that is a good shoe. It's unfortunately a good shoe.
It's unfortunate because now
but we should drop it
with the student loans. Now that they what was it, on May 5th? Now they have to pay them back or something. These student
a
loans.
great program that was again for that monthly payment. I was even doing it was called IBR, that income based rate, which was looking at your income from that previous year and then giving you something fair. So with all that being said, May 5th has just passed. And there was a big decision made on the student loans, correct? You want to walk us through that?
You have to now pay your student loans. They're coming out of deferment for everyone. You can't push it out any further.
Correct.
So on May 5th, I believe you had to start paying your student loans. The problem is you may have been deferment for 8 years prior to that, or 4 years.
Right.
On May 5th, if you didn't start making payments, you automatically got a late. It happened to one of my clients, and it happened. We got actually an email, that you have to watch out for this stuff. Now we have to update a credit report because now that they have to go back into the repayment plan. Student loans, they're tough. They were deferred. And
then it was almost like when I would have like these layman's conversations with you for clients, like it was like we have credit score and debt and all that, and then we know of the student loans, but it was like a way to be like parting the waters. This is in this camp and this is in this camp, and all of a sudden the floodgate. The barrier between the two camps is now open, and it's like whoosh. And so if you didn't have any 30-day, 60-day, 90-day late marks on your credit history, and unbeknownst to you, you thought you were safe, you thought you were following the rules, you thought you were still deferred, all of a sudden, woof,
you get hit with a 90-day late, your credit score goes from 800 to 650.
A 30-day late.
It's a big drop, a recent late on an installment loan.
I have seen a recent 30-day late on a payment drop somebody by 72 points.
Depending on their profile, sure.
72
Absolutely.
Points
Yeah.
in one 30-day late payment.
Recent late.
And it was on a car payment.
And that's an installment. Lenders want to make sure you're going to pay your mortgage, so they really look at that score.
Absolutely.
So if you're late on, this, why are you late? Is something going on in your life, where you're late? Have you taken on other debt so you're not paying your car? So that's why the credit scores are so important to lenders.
Do you have any insight as to why the car payments seem to affect, if you're 30-day, it feels like if you're 30 days late on a car payment, your credit just goes.
I mean, we're not a credit reporting agency, so
Right.
they have their own algorithms, but
Sure.
because it's an installment loan, so you have your mortgage, which is most important. Meaning, if you're applying for a mortgage,
Which is an installment.
Which is an installment loan, but it's a housing payment. Our algorithms, when we run the report, are geared towards mortgage financing. So our scores may be skewed than when you run your own Credit Karma. if you're going for a car loan, you know, when you go to the finance guy at the, let's say the Audi place, their credit scores are skewed towards car loans. So they're only looking at really your car payment history. Not only, but it's a certain algorithm, you know, so their scores may be different. But because it's an installment loan, meaning it's due every month, you know, it does weigh heavily on your credit report as to opposed to maybe like a revolving credit card where you missed a $25 payment. So it does weigh more heavily. And the more recent it is, the more it weighs on your scores.
Sure.
You know?
Do you feel any which way or any pull when you're trying to do an application for a financed vehicle versus a leased vehicle?
No, the only thing with a leased vehicle, if you owe under 10 months, under a year, we can exclude the payment. So it may help you.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're financing your car and you have 10 months left.
Or leasing a car, you mean?
No, financing.
Oh, financing
Yeah,
a
not
car.
leasing.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. So if you're financing a car, you own the car, you're financing it, we can exclude the payment if it's under 10 months.
If you have less than 10 months or less left on your finance payment.
Because if you have a $500 car payment,
Yeah.
we exclude it.
That's sick.
Yeah. But if you're leasing a car, even though the lease may be up in 1 month, we have to include it. The underwriters assume you're going to lease another car because you're giving that car back.
And it's never considered an asset if you were having to, you know.
I don't consider a car an asset, so to speak, but we can exclude.
Because it ain't one.
Well, depending on the car, you know, depending on the car.
Bleeding me dry.
But anyway, so yours are assets. Yours are assets.
Yeah,
It'll go down in value. Some of them.
Keep talking.
I mean, what do I know? I just want to ride in
know
that
a lot.
Lamborghini.
I know. When it comes to house hunting and getting your mortgage approved, it's like to car or not to car? That is the question.
You know, it depends on your debt to income ratio. So
Yes.
You know, if a lot of my clients who are coming up from the city, Brooklyn, you know, the Bronx, they don't have a car. You know, so the question comes up, hey, Austin, I'm moving up to your town. I'm going to need a car. What should I do?
Yeah.
We'll just make sure, okay, what kind of car are you going to get? How much is it going to be a month? It's going to be $300 a month. I'm going to get a little Hyundai. Okay. I just make sure they're going to qualify once they get the car. If their debt to income ratios are maxed out and they're just not going to qualify for another payment, I'm like, you're going to have to suck it up and wait. Wait until you close.
Yeah, let's unpack that vocabulary word. So some of you may see this thing where it's called DTI or debt to income ratio. Can you just explain to the good people what that is?
So lenders look at a few things. They look at your credit score, you know, make sure you pay your bills. They look at your income. They want to see a 2-year history, you know, to show stability of income. They look at your assets. They want to make sure you have enough for your down payment, your closing fees, you know, maybe some reserves in the bank. So they look at your assets. And then they look at debt to income ratio. So lenders come up with a debt to income ratio. For a conventional loan, they will allow you to spend 45% of your income on debt, including your new house. So for an example, you make $10,000 a month
for this next conversation.
They'll allow you to spend $4,500 in debt.
Yeah.
All right? So your house is $3,000. You have a car for $500. You got a student loan for $200. You got some revolving debt for $100. So they add it all up and they divide it into your gross income and they come up with a ratio. All right. So that's what a debt to income ratio is. It's one of the 4 or 5. They also look at the collateral, which is the home. But, you know, 4 things that we look at.
Okay. So my brain is like being like a squirrel right now. So I hope I don't
fun numbers.
So I don't screw this up. But this is really interesting. So this makes a lot more sense to me now. So if we're still talking about debt to income ratio and we're talking about to buy or not buy a car, because you and I both have clients that have going through this now and we're trying to protect them from doing it again, where, you know, they're meaning well, they're working hard, they have this nice income. And they go, especially 3 years ago, they'll go, I want an Audi R8. And they will take themselves into a $1,500 or not more lease or even finance payment so that they can drive an Audi R8. And they just took that allowance, so to speak, of this is how much your income in, and you just took a big chunk of your 45% of your buying of your debt that you're allowed, and you just threw it on an R8.
Yep.
Or whatever else is out there.
It happens.
It does happen more often than not.
It does. Yes, like you say, if you're looking for a home and you go out and buy a Ferrari
Yeah.
or a Lamborghini, just realize it depending on what your income is, it may not matter to them. If they're making a couple million, that
Right.
$5,000 car payment is not going to. However, if you're making enough money, where you can afford a home, and if you put a hefty car payment in there, it disqualifies a lot of borrowers.
Yeah.
A lot of borrowers, if they don't have great credit, they get a jacked up car rate.
Yeah.
And their car payments are a lot higher than they would be if you had good credit.
Right. Well, I hear it all the time, because you have, I think what's hard with the young entrepreneurs and just young people in general. I'm not trying to shake my finger at anybody, but I mean, there's so much life that happens between 22 and 28. And if you're doing a lease or finance payment, that's like you're looking at, for the first time, really, you're looking at a financial decision for the next 3 to 5 years of your life. I would say 2, but that means you're in a really astronomically high lease. Anyways. And so what happens is, particularly, I went through this with my niece, is literally 22 at the time. Hey, Sharon, I want an Audi
Of course,
Q7,
that's 22. Who wouldn't want
Q5.
one?
I can afford it. I deserve it. And like, yeah, you might be able to handle this car note right now, but like not looking at the longevity of, this is taking a chunk of my 45% allowable debt. And by the time I'm 26, 27, 28, oh shit, I want to buy a house with my girlfriends or my boyfriend, or I'm getting married now, or whatever the case may be. And not hearing that.
Because they're 22.
Because they're not listening.
My daughter's 22. My
Yes.
older son's 25.
Let's talk about it. Yeah.
They want to hear what they want to hear.
They're going to hear what they want to hear. Yeah.
I mean, thank God both of them are financially responsible. But,
Right.
so my son bought a house. He's 25 years old. He
God
bought
bless.
an investment property. Yeah.
God bless.
So he gets it, But no, I mean, my daughter has a Cadillac. I mean,
When you're buying, or especially when you're leasing a car, I don't care how old are you? Because I mean, you and I have friends who are 45, 55, they're still kids. You know what I mean? But like when you're leasing a car, you really need to be thinking about financially wise, what does your financials goals look like 3-5 years from now?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. If you're preparing, now 22 is a little young.
Of course.
But who knows? Like I said, my son was 24 when he bought that investment property.
God
so
bless.
he had a vision. But most kids, they're graduating college, getting their career started, maybe moving out to rent. They're not looking to buy something. But I think once, it's the old, you get in a relationship.
Of course.
So now you're starting to think about buying a house. So,
Of course.
you may get to me where, I have this many student loans. I just bought this Audi. You may
Yes.
not be able to buy a house
May not
until
be able
you're
to buy a
another
house.
2 years. But at least it's a conversation we could have. That's why it's so important. Once you take
Right.
it out, show them a house or two, make sure they speak to a banker. They want to make sure they can afford the home they're looking at.
Absolutely.
A lot of them realize, wow, this is not, I can't afford this.
I can't afford this.
Even if they could, the payment is the sticker shock nowadays.
And the insurance and
Home insurance,
everything.
the maintenance,
The
on
closing
yard.
costs.
Well, that's 4 to 5% in Westchester County. You buy a $500,000 house, $20,000.
And I mean, you and I, thankfully, knock on wood, we've all been in those white knuckling situations where we have worked so hard and we've getting there and and then sometimes it's closing costs that kill a deal.
Do you?
Every once in a while,
Yeah, they have. They don't. You typically avoid it at this point
because you've been preparing for the last
Right,
30 to 90
right.
days
Where nowadays the banks, they want to make sure the money's in the bank
prior to.
prior to. So
Yeah.
we sort of avoided that. But now back in the day, I
mean,
was a broker.
It happens.
I mean, you're scraping up.
Yeah.
Mom and dad are throwing money.
Have
Yeah.
a gift letter.
Right.
Gift letter.
The old gift letters.
A gift. Can you explain to the good people what a gift letter is? And I promise we're going to circle back on this. Is a
We're gonna
car
circle
an
back
asset
to
or not?
Lamborghinis.
Promise.
It's a gift, to buy the home. So basically, mom or dad, grandma, grandpa want to give you money to buy your home. It's very simple. You
Yes.
sign a gift letter, meaning I don't have to pay it back, and they give you the check, and we follow the paper trail.
But it's another document
But
to lay into the file for the bank, or
Yeah, something that has to be looked at by the owner, to make sure it's a gift.
and it's viable.
It has to be typically a family member, So,
Yeah.
but no, definitely acceptable form of a down payment.
Yeah.
Closing.
So I get this question a lot, people meaning well. And I mean, now I'm back to Shari Schwick. I get the question a lot in terms of, oh, I want to buy a car. I want to buy my first exotic, da, da, da. You know, cars are great investments. Cars are assets. I go, well, like you said, it really depends on the car. And if you're buying a car that is an investment, one of two things have happened. It's so rare and it's so expensive that you're already in a different category that you don't usually worry about these things. Okay. So for you to really get a car that's an asset and not an asshat, like it needs to be of a rarity and of a condition that you're already using your gravy train money for. So that's number one. And then number two, the other way it becomes an asset is if you, again, I want to be careful and say it's almost like buying a house, but it's a commitment where like, if you really want to turn that as an investment, especially right now in today's car market, by the way, you need to be holding on to that car for the next 10 to 20 years and not using it.
Unless you're buying them, fixing them up and flipping them, type of thing.
But I'm telling you, as of today, right now, the car market isn't even doing that great. But before we go back to that question, so I want to stay on this, like, are cars an asset or not? So now I'm like broadcasting a little bit, but and please jump in with your opinion in terms of like how you would financially counsel somebody. You know, people have been coming up to me at car shows and like, oh, I'm going to go buy this and I'm going to buy this pre-certified McLaren. I'm going to go buy this Camaro and I'm going to soup it up and da, da, da. And I've turned into mom on the car show parking lot, which makes me not cool. I say, do you own where you live? What do you mean? I said, do you own your house or condo? No, I rent. I go, okay. I said, then don't buy the pre-certified McLaren. Why? Why not, Austin?
You know, what did somebody used to say? It's not the car in your driveway, but it's the...
Where you drive home?
It's owning the driveway. Like something
yeah, that makes sense.
You know, yeah, I mean, you know, you could rent a condo and have a Lamborghini in your driveway. What does that mean?
Not much.
You know, from a mortgage standpoint, cars are not an asset because they're not
Absolutely
liquid.
not.
They're not liquid. You know, so I have people on their app, they'll put, when they fill out the assets, you know, auto, it's worth $10,000, but it's not liquid to me, to us. So we don't, no, car, you know, you drive them off the lot, they depreciate.
100%.
But I would, in all my years, never looked at a car as an asset.
It's not.
You know, I love a nice car.
It's not
you
an
know,
asset.
Believe me, I love it. But
Yeah.
it's because I like to drive a nice car. I'm not thinking it's going to appreciate.
Exactly.
And I lease anyway, so it would never appreciate.
You're right.
It's gone in 3 years.
Right, exactly. And I mean, listen, I started
But everybody's
releasing...
different, Sharon. Everybody's
I know.
different. You know,
Well, your priorities are, I guess.
it's if you're, there's arguments about if you're 25 years old and you can afford a Lamborghini, fucking buy the Lamborghini. I don't know, no kids, no house, just go buy. If you're buying a house, no. But let's put that aside.
This is the quintessential. Go ask dad. Go ask mom.
Meaning, if you can
Dad
afford
says
that
yes.
and you want to have fun it's a blip in your life without kids, without the house, buy your Lamborghini, go to Vegas, party it up. Then when you get it out of your system, buy your house, come to boring old Austin and Sharon, we'll get your house, you know, but no, if you are buying a home,
Yes.
and, you know, you may not be able to afford the
Right. So in terms of the wealth management step, like I've had people come to me and it's asked backwards where it goes, I want to have all the cars that you and Billy have. And I go right back to real estate and I go, great. What real estate assets do you have? And they just like look at me like blank in the face, like, well, I'm going to have a 30-year conventional mortgage on a home one day. And I go, And I just this is my personal story. This is how we did it, so to speak. So whatever gravitas or BS this is, and please challenge me if you need to. So and we leased all of our vehicles. We don't own Billy doesn't own his first BMW until after we've bought our home, our first home that I just talked about.
Maybe.
And then we were blessed in a situation where we actually paid off that loan within the first 2 years. So there's that. So we had this incredible amount of, income driven going on with our career where we saw our money as storing it, not spending it. So like, me, you've never seen me in a Chanel bag. I'm just Just Sharon.
I mean, I showed up. She was in rollers.
Thank you.
She's as down to earth
Oh, I appreciate that so much.
down to earth as they come.
I appreciate that, but we really don't. We don't buy our first. And to be fair and disclose, at one point we had 2 BMWs, so we don't buy BMW or Mercedes until we own 2 homes. Up until that point, we are driving leased, sometimes even extending leases on either a Chevy Equinox or a Ford Explorer. That is just the lane we are literally in. And then people don't realize that we don't buy, or Billy doesn't surprise me with the first Lamborghini until we own 4 homes.
Because real estate is an appreciable asset.
Correct.
It's the greatest wealth builder in this country.
And the most whether you agree with interest rates or everything else
Doesn't
going
matter.
on, it is the most stable market to invest in.
It's real estate. You cannot go wrong over the long term.
You own a piece of the United States.
That's a great asset. But,
it's a different beast.
It's generational with real estate. If you can buy a house and then maybe buy a rental property, or even you buy a house and you keep it and, and upgrade, and you, number one, if you have an investment property, the tenant pays your mortgage. You don't pay your own mortgage.
The tenant pays your car. I mean, that's what I try to tell people.
Right.
It's like, if your mortgage, however you pay off your house, yes, if you have an investment property, your mortgage interest gets written off during taxes. That's another conversation for another time. But if you are bringing in enough, and I always tell everybody, have income producing assets, and we ultimately want 7 streams of income. But that's the weight of the car is you get the income producing asset. And then you go and you use the gravy. Yeah, the gravy train comes. And then you go buy the R8.
I will tell you. So we were 28 years old. Me and my partner, I got into mortgages because I used to own investment properties.
Oh, cool.
So we would own properties in Peekskill and the north side of Poughkeepsie.
God dang.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
So from 1998 till 2008, we had these properties. And we would buy and flip them.
That is quite a time to be buying and flipping real estate, my friend.
Oh, it was a gravy train.
Yes, amazing.
And we both got ourselves Porsche 911s because the tenants were paying. Yes.
This is the first time I'm hearing this.
Yeah, probably. But
Austin.
yeah, so we did. We because like you brought it. It got me thinking because the tenants were paying the mortgages on all these properties. We had 60 units, and our accountant said you guys need write-offs. What better write-off? 2 911s.
Get the hell out of here.
Oh, it's great.
That
God, I
makes
love
my
that car.
Of course. Billy just sold ours. Makes me sick to my stomach.
First, I had a little Boxer, the little Porsche.
Oh, my gosh.
But then The Sopranos was on. This is going back.
Yes.
And he said it's a Porsche in panties, or it was something. I says, I can't have this.
Isn't that funny? It's like what
Tony Soprano.
whatever is what he did to Merlot in that one movie.
Yeah.
I ain't drinking no Merlot. And then nobody drinks Merlot anymore.
Yeah. So anyway, we got the 911.
This is a sign.
Yeah. Yeah, my son was 2 at the time. I squished him in the back seat, the Porsche back
yes,
seat.
the back seat of a Porsche. It's so funny.
But anyway, so we did. We enjoyed, but the tenants were paying it, and it was a write-off. But then as, time went on, recession hit, that was the end of all that fun. My partner always said, because he was, he traded oil or gasoline cracks down in the Merc. It was almost like a little blip in our lives. Like we hit the lottery for a few years, and then it all went away, It literally all went away. It was the craziest thing. Yeah. So I feel like we hit the lottery for a bit, and then
that is pretty
here
awesome.
I am.
Well, you got
my 4-door car.
Well, you
my little house.
Yeah, well, you have a 4-door and 4 children who are
3.
3. Why did I think you guys had this?
Whoa! Unless somebody.
No. Why did I think you guys had 2
Unless
and
Bryce
2?
is my kid over there.
No. I mean, you could be. I mean,
no,
you
I
should.
have the 2 older
he's a wonderful dad.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's nothing wrong. I mean, this is getting awkward.
That's weird. That's weird. I don't want any DNA tests with coming back for more child support. I'm done with child support. Anyway, no, I have the 2 older ones and the little one.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah. So anyway.
What was your first car ever? I know what mine was. Do you remember your first car ever?
My father's Impala.
No kidding. Hey, well, if you still had that Impala, that would probably be worth something right now.
So
my dad had a Pontiac Trans Am. That also would have been worth something right now.
I had a 79 Camaro.
That also would have
$1,000. Can you imagine?
But this is what I'm talking about. Like for it to be an asset, like 1979. Like we're not going to tell you how long ago that was, friends.
Yeah.
More than 20 years.
For all these kids listening. No, it was
Oh
a
my
7.
God.
Yeah, but it was a Caprice. He gave it to me, and I remember I took the air filter and I put it upside down so it sounded like it had,
It sounded broken.
sounded like a sick exhaust.
That is, there's a life tip. If you want to make your old Camaro sound beastie, flip
The air filter upside. This is what we did.
That's
It
hilarious.
was a 4-door Caprice. But that was my first. Yeah. Then I got
That's
that
awesome.
Camaro. I thought who I was.
I mean, you were something. You were. You are.
That was 80. Well, how old was I? 80. That was
I am
1986.
not gonna
I was
tell you.
16. I'm 55. So I was 16 years old. I had that stupid Caprice. Then I got the Camaro.
That is so cool. What color was the Camaro?
White. Then I had somebody put the little fin on it.
Of course.
Then remember
Did
the
you do
Z28s
stripes?
with the louvers? Of course we did the stripes. The Z28 with the louver, I had that. With the big kicker in the back. Remember the kicker?
Oh my gosh.
The window would shake. They don't have that anymore, do they? In the
I don't
cars?
think so. I don't think so. My very first car was, like when you're in high school and your mom wants to like make sure that, and I did hit a garage, a parking lot pole in a supermarket. So thank God they were right about this. It was a 1989 Toyota Camry when it looked like
Yes.
3 rectangles.
Yes, the square.
There was no bubbles. There was no bug eyes. There was no curvature.
Right,
It
right.
was,
Yeah.
here's a rectangle and there's 2 more rectangles. And that's what it looks like.
That pole didn't have a chance, Shar.
Oh my gosh. So did you teach your kids how to drive? Nice.
Remember taking them to, because, so I taught them, well, yeah, me and my ex taught them, but I taught my son to drive stick at
Smart.
Mercy, was it Mercy College in Yorktown? Over there.
Oh, yeah.
Where the
That
blue-
big
blue-
building is. It's like an office building. There's like
Yeah,
multiple
yeah.
people in there.
Yeah, and it was.
I know what you're talking about.
It was. I had a stick shift.
I went to
penalty.
night school there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I taught him there in the park lot, but nobody drives stick.
cool.
Everything's the paddles now.
I know. Everything is paddles.
Even mine, and I don't ever use the paddles.
Really? Well, because it's easy to just stay in automatic.
Where am I? What am I
Where am I
racing?
going?
Who am I racing?
Where am I going?
Yeah,
My 4-door.
my 4-door Audi, zipping around Yorktown. My paddles.
Woo!
What's up, Billy?
Oh, what's up?
How you doing?
How are you?
Did you guys ever meet in person or was it only ever the phone?
Yeah, I met you before, I think.
Yeah, maybe we did.
So we start here. Have a seat.
Remember, I
honey.
was your favorite mortgage guy. He doesn't remember.
Have a seat.
This guy doesn't
Have a
remember.
seat. Get on the mic.
You were yelling at me.
Oh, yeah. So this conversation with Austin here from Prosperity Home Mortgage, Uncle Billy.
Yeah, right.
Austin,
I
Uncle
just
Billy.
drove 110 miles an hour from Wall Street.
Because his wife was yelling at him. Well, yeah, because his wife gives him a schedule,
And that's
and I like to be hospitable. And I said, today, 11 a.m. What?
She
well,
doesn't take
you're not sort of on time.
she
It's
doesn't
not
take
12
into
yet.
consideration that I actually have a job in New York City.
Oh, yes.
Now I
there
have
we
to go back to New York
Because
City after
none
this.
of us work.
So you came up for
anywhere
this.
else.
So I'm coming back for this, and I got to leave to go back to the city.
Okay, let the
I
sympathy
get to
only.
meet him. He's out
I
of
know.
breath.
Well, somebody has to give me sympathy. Because,
I mean, you gotta just gauge yourself.
yeah, we got to do something about this mic. I need one for my shirt. How come all the singers get it and I don't get this?
The little clip on.
Move your chair a little bit closer to the table, sir. So me and Austin were reminiscing about how we got to know each other. And so in the world of real estate, and I was talking about how Lisa was our real estate agent and we were looking for homes in Mayapack at the time. And that's what led me to real estate. And Austin was the mortgage loan officer that she recommended. And Austin, do you want to tell him or you want me to tell him?
Do you remember you yelling at me?
I yelled at you?
So I was just telling Sarah, I've had arguments with 2 clients in my 25 years.
In his whole career.
You and one other guy. But I liked you because you were just yelling. You were just mad at the process. You don't remember? Nah, this
You
is
talking about The Office?
What year was this?
Billy yelled
Behind
at
No,
Jefferson Valley
on the
Mall?
car, on the phone. So
Billy-
finally, Sharon had to get on because you were done with me because I was asking for your tax returns. Finally, you got fed up with me. You were yelling at me. So she got on the phone and she goes, "What do you need from this guy?" And I said, "This is what she introduced herself." Were you guys married at the time?
No,
No.
no.
And she got me what I needed, and we got you that house in Mayapack. He doesn't remember.
People see me yelling at him on the camera and having no idea the chaos that happens.
At least you don't hit him like the French president who got hit coming out of the plane. You should do that on your podcast. Give him a little
I
plane.
get hit every day.
I will not confirm or deny. But when I saw the French first, what they call them, the first, whatever the version, the first lady of the, whatever of France was, I was like, yep, I might share that as a text message. Yep, see how you're not the only one who goes to this. Yeah, so Austin is our first mortgage loan officer with that. I call it the first, and it's still it's like one of our like jewels in our whole portfolio.
Do you still own it?
Yeah.
Wow, good for
And
you
now
guys.
it's an investment property. We have a wonderful family who rents it out from us and maintains that home beautifully. And yeah, absolutely.
That had to be how many years ago, though?
That was 8 years ago.
2017.
April 2017.
Yeah. So this grows very, very fast.
It was actually winter.
Well, the screaming happens winter of 2016 or fall.
No.
Yes.
No.
I'm going to tell you why, because it's a little bit of a sad story. My dog, my lifetime, you know that dog. You have dogs, right? Didn't you have dogs?
I have a dog.
I have you know that special once in a lifetime dog?
I had one, a bulldog.
Right? See, we all had. And so my once in a lifetime dog was Honey, and she was a red Labrador, and she passes away October 30th, 2016, and is the day that we get the phone call from Lisa that our offer was accepted on the house. So you must have had that, whether we were already in conversation with you or about to, like, you know, everything was getting real because the offer was accepted with the mortgage loan off, you know, because we had to show that we were qualified. So it happened around the fall of 2016.
Well, I already knew we had the house because I walked with the firefighter. So.
But you needed the loan. You know, the mortgage.
You know, I remember you worked for OSHA. You did OSHA type stuff.
Yeah,
I still do.
You still do. I know you still.
that.
But I remember you had all these different streams of income.
Yes.
And I remember saying,
Oh my
I gotta get
God.
into fucking OSHA. This guy's killing it.
Yes.
But I remember, and then you were explaining. Then you were teaching. You had money from teaching. Correct. Yeah, and then now obviously you guys flourish. That's what I remember was frustrating for you because I'm like, Bill, he had all this income all over, and we had to document that income.
Because what was happening is you were transitioning from Plasters Union, you were going into Park Avenue Concrete, you were an independent contractor, you were working for Maria.
Yes.
We had our own private clients on the
I
side.
remember.
Yeah,
That's why he was yelling.
And you were Employee of the Year for Safety Group that year. Which we have the plaque downstairs. I can prove it.
I was employee of the year 4 years in a row, but that's all right.
Because he went, I'm going to be like this. You're going to make
You're
me
still doing it
employee.
though, right?
Yeah, we do it privately. No more no more W-2s.
I work for a school.
No, you are as an independent contractor. You don't work. You're not salaried.
I don't work
you're
on
not,
the job sites no more.
You're on your own boss.
No, they don't. The construction business is making a turn downhill spiral.
Really?
Oh yeah, big time.
Why?
It's because the work slowed down. They're worried about the tariffs. They're worried about Trump. That's the truth. That's all they're saying. I'm not bringing up Trump because I don't know anything about him. All I'm saying is people are worried about what's happening going forward. So what they're doing is they're not getting the tax breaks they used to get in New York City from the government and the governor. They backed off on it right now because of the interest rates are too high. So it's a combination of a lot of things.
Really?
So they stopped building.
Well, I will say that is kind of a common thread between like all three of our niches here. Let's just say you're representing the construction side. I'm representing, whether people want me to or not, the car buying side, and you handling the real estate side. Can we all talk about gingerly like how we think or we're anticipating the tariffs to affecting our industries? And I have a theory too. But who wants to go first?
I don't know.
Well, you've
I don't
kind
know
of
what
started.
it's going to do.
Because, I mean, seriously, we're talking about like you guys need steel to build things.
Well,
and
the
so with
companies are
tariffs
gonna
on
put it on
Canadian
them.
steel is a problem.
The companies are going to put it on the customers.
Yeah.
They
Which
have
then
to.
trickles down
They
to
have
this
to.
guy.
No, I can tell you flat out, tariffs are no good for interest rates, which in turn is no good for housing.
Correct.
So, listen, I could go on and on about this, You know, they're on one week, they're off 1 week.
It's very, and
There's
that's the
no
hard thing with
stability.
bank, the unpredictability.
Right. So the bank, you know, rates are at 6, rates are at 7, rates are, you know, they're all over the place. You know, I don't know. There's no, we need some stability so we can move forward.
I agree.
Because I think the markets, they want to move. People want to spend money because if he deregulates this and that, but everybody's just in a holding pattern.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's in a holding pattern.
That's what's happening.
You know, nobody's selling their house because of interest rates. You know,
Right, because they're
if
too
have.
afraid. Well, that's why I tell people all the time, you know,
They're
like,
not building new houses, so there's
no more land around to build
Unless
on.
you go to Dutchess, but
Exactly. But that's, you know, like we happen to be in a market that's very concentrated in the upper Westchester area. And I know that prosperity stretches across Connecticut and so forth and so on. But like, for instance, you have families that are well established with their children in certain school districts. Whether you love the school district or not is besides the point. You don't want to move your kid out of their middle school. You don't want to move their kid particularly out of their high school because the confidence is not there. Yeah, I know I could list my home and get top dollar right now for my house, but there's no guarantee that I can buy another house in my school district where my kid can graduate and enjoy senior year the way they want to.
move at best. 'Cause
Exactly.
You're going to sell this at top dollar, but you're going to buy something at top dollar. And your rate's
If it's
probably,
even available,
and
though.
if you're interested, if you have a mortgage, your interest rate's probably lower than what you're going to get now. So it's a
Correct.
lateral move at best. I would love to move, but I'm not trading a 3.5% interest rate.
Exactly. And so this is kind of how the cycle goes, in my opinion, in terms of like wealth. So for instance, let's just call it the GCs who hold the big money because they do. Those jobs that we write for, like for health and safety plans for the DDC, those bids are like $280 million bids. Okay. Now, if the price of the steel is going up and all the insulation is going up, we saw lumber explode by 60% during COVID. Okay. So all of those infrastructure, literally the structure to build the things is going up. Then we trickle it down to the bite-sized pieces of people who can buy residential or even buy commercial. The prices are up. The income didn't necessarily drive up. And then the interest rate, because now it's unstable, is now staying at 6.7. 7. Yeah, where the same person who wanted to afford that house, that price of that house has now gone up because of the materials cost, and the income hasn't matched.
Even to do, you know, you see it, well, you know, to do an addition,
Yeah,
to do
anything.
anything is more expensive because, like you say, steel. You know, you could buy steel in the U.S. You know, but it's not as, I guess, as cheap as
There's certain grades of steel that we have, and unfortunately, now this is getting into politics a little bit, but I promise to move on. But like, we didn't preserve, you know, the Pittsburgh steel, like the Pittsburgh Steelers, like we didn't preserve Pittsburgh steel and some other things when we had the ability to back, you know, however you want to argue it, the 80s and 90s or what have you. So then we started leaning on Canadian steel. Well, you just pissed off the Canadians. So guess what just happened to the price of our Canadian steel? And you just tariff steel. What do you think forklifts are made out of? They're not made out of steel out of Pittsburgh, everybody. It's made out of Canadian steel. So like, even to drive the truck to bring the lumber to the job site costs more, right? So this is all to say the same hardworking buyer or second-time buyer or even investor cannot keep up with that type of inflation and cost and penalty. Then
the
comes
affordability is just
insane. And then you come back to, I'll just say it, we're not talking about cars in terms of, you know, driving dailies. I'm talking to like the wealthy, you know, I'm going to go buy that rare car. I'm going to buy my 7th Lambo. I'm going to buy a 3rd Ferrari, people. We're watching all of this, right? And I didn't bring this up in a team meeting because I didn't want to start freaking people out, because it's also just my opinion and it's just a temperature I have on things, just being on kind of like on this side of the Oz curtain. I go, you have to watch the car market, the exotic car market, because the people with the gravy trains, when the gravy train people stop buying exotic cars, it will come all the way back around, because it means I'm tightening up because of my building costs. I may not even buy the building anymore. And then because I know I'm not going to have a buyer, or I'm not going to be able to have a tenant that can pay me the high rent that I need to have an ROI that matches the investment to the inflated costs. So I always say, if you want to see how the market is doing, you have to watch I'm talking extreme, like the Bugatti.
the luxury market.
Yeah. Like the hyper car market and down to see what's going on with the country, wealth-wise. Yeah. My humble, know-nothing opinion.
It's a good opinion.
Thanks, Austin.
Opinion. What do you think, Bill? Good opinion.
Yeah.
Did you go to sleep? You sure? Okay. So let's get you into this conversation about like car depreciation. Oh, first of all, tell Billy your about the car you had that was a 1979.
Oh, my 1979 Camaro. One of my first cars.
Wow. You still got it?
No. It was one of my first cars. Yeah, 1986 I had it. 'Cause
Yeah.
I got my license in 80. No, we're talking about all the old cars we had and the hand-me-downs, and kids don't get hand-me-downs anymore.
No.
You know,
Nah, nobody
lease a new car. They get a new car.
Well, that's where we were kind of leading to. We were talking about, like starting to teach your kids how to drive cars. And then I was like where are you landing? This is where you walked in. Where do you land as a parent in terms of like these kids getting like new or almost new cars to learn to drive in their first 3 years of driving?
How old are your kids now?
25, 22,
Oh, wow.
and 8.
And 8.
And 8.
Oh, wow.
I have a little one. Yours is
a
how
very
old?
similar
How old's
story in this
your
way.
daughter?
Elena's turning 14 in July. She's a little bit older.
Teenage girl. Ooh,
Yeah.
05.
I know.
Must love that.
Your kids never go away.
No.
Mine don't go away. None of them go away.
They're your kids.
You're stuck with them, dude.
Yeah. And
My grandmother
Better
always
to take care of yourself because they're not going to do nothing for you.
My grandmother always said little
Stay
people.
healthy.
My grandmother always said little people, little problems, big people, big problems. So where do you stand on the whole like parenting with new drivers and I want a new car?
No.
You know,
Good answer.
I went
fellas.
through it. So I lost a little bit of. So I was divorced. So when my kids were 16, I lost a little bit of
FYI,
control.
all of us have been divorced multiple times
Right.
at this point. Okay.
So I didn't have full control over
What
say,
happened with the
no,
boys, of
but-
the kiddos?
Yeah, no, my son's first car, I think he had a BMW. Like it was something.
Get out.
And my daughter's was the Cadillac.
Oh, wow.
Oh, no, the Jeep. I'm sorry. She had
Okay,
No, my
okay.
son's was the Jeep. Either which way, they were nice cars.
Sure.
I think, he had the Jeep. He gave it to her, and then he got the Beamer. Yeah.
Okay.
No, but these kids, I think it's almost cheaper to lease them a little car. I don't know. I have to think with my daughters, in 8 years or whatever, when she's driving, is it cheaper to lease her a little cheap car or get her a used car? Something to say. We go back and forth, even my sister with their kids, what's the right, but I guess it's if you're financially able to.
The kids have to be responsible at a young age. The reason why these kids are the way they are now, talking back to their parents, and when I was in Miami a couple days ago,
Ugh.
I was there to pick up my Demon. Okay, so I stayed the night. So I went
His
to get
Demon, a Dodge Demon 170, not pick up another.
I thought he meant like one of his kids.
I mean, we could. Oh, that too.
So the guy.
I'm the evil stepmother, so watch
So I
out.
went to go see this guy who has 400,000 followers, and he wraps cars in diamonds, and he wants to do Mayoras. So I'm listening to him, right? And it's beautiful. The wraps are beautiful, but it's not for me. Right. And I had to be honest with him. And he goes, you know what? I need to know why. He goes, meet me for dinner later, right? Because he goes,
no
nobody
knowledge
tells
of this
me. And
conversation.
I said, well, I did. So I'm in the shop, and my driver, Tim's like, Bill, the cars are beautiful, but they're not for me.
Right.
So he has 3 cars in the shop. He has a huge following. He travels the country, whatever. So he goes, I'm going to eat here tonight at 10 o'clock. Come over here and get something to eat with me, and we'll talk about everything. So I'm sitting there, and next thing you know, there's guys driving by in these cars, because it's Miami. It's Memorial Day weekend, and I'm exhausted. I don't like being up late. So I'm sitting there at a high table. She knows I hate fucking high tables. And we're sitting there talking, and this girl pulls up in a Mercedes and parks there. And it's a G-Wagon. You could tell she's a kid. Next thing you know, the fucking state troopers roll right up on her. Get her out of her car, license, flashlight, the whole nine. He goes, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are?
Kidding.
Who do you
Because
think
was
you
she
are?
in a fire lane?
No, she was blocking.
Oh.
And she stood there and thought, and all her friends were in the back seat. They did a drug test on her, alcohol, in front of
Everybody.
And people are filming. People are filming, YouTubes, Instagram, and all that. And the cop says, listen, if you don't back the fuck up, he goes, I'm going to arrest all of you. And he was dead set.
He was
like
done.
a
He
round
was
down
done.
south.
He was done.
But they didn't care. And finally, 5 of them got arrested. He
'Cause they-
called in
okay.
4 more cops. The whole street in Miami and Brickell is like the place with all the stores and all that, right? He knows. I like Brickell. But it's thousands of people, man. You go get a slice of pizza, it's 2 hours.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's overrated for me. It's not for me. I'm too old. So anyway, everybody's walking around and people are just doing what the fuck they want on the street, man. And she was entitled. So the guy that was with me that was talking to me why I don't want to wrap my car in his material says, I know her. I'm going to save her. So he was showing off. So he went over there, talked to the cop.
And that's why these kids don't
He's got
learn
the cop's
anything.
phone number because the cop goes to his shop. So I was like, this is a Miami thing here. They're all together. But you know what? They're all nice people. The girl I don't know about because she was with her friends. The cop says, you know what? I'm going to give you a break, but if you block a lane again, you're going to jail. He says, I'm not going to give you a ticket. I'm taking you to jail for an infraction. And so everybody heard it, like 100 people on the corner videotaping it. There was YouTubers out there, Instagram people, all over Miami, just taking films for stupid shit. You know, women walking around taking selfies. So he says to me, why don't you want to rap? And I said, it's not that I don't want to rap. It's not for me. So his car's in the street with his red line underground racing on a
Oh, I know who you're talking about now.
So he's the guy on Instagram where he faked the dead body out of a trunk. And he's cool. He's a nice guy. But
Just play those fake dead bodies.
he's got the diamond and crust
Swarovski crystals.
Swarovski crystal, right? I got it wrong. Sorry.
I think we both said
when you get up
wrong.
close to the car, it's some people might be amazed by it, but it didn't do it for me. And he was shocked that I was like, "What?"
Well, I mean,
and why? Because it just doesn't do
different
nothing.
strokes for different folks.
And I said, it only comes with 5 colors. You're limited on choices, okay? And eventually, I'm gonna get bored of it.
I
So what does it
don't.
look like?
It just looks like a
got
really
a picture?
sparkly
Oh, here.
car. There's one at
Yeah, I'll
Lambo
show you.
But it's
Paramus right now, I
diamonds.
think. How do you say that word? Swarovski crystals.
But it's embedded in the wrap.
I don't know how they do it. Is there anything that people do to their cars that you can't stand?
That big Tesla, I don't like the truck. That's a little
the trash can? The Cybertruck? I can't stand a Cybertruck.
Yeah, the
It might
sales
grow
are-
on me, though.
The sales are...
So
Bang.
there's the one. You want to talk about depreciation value? Okay, those Cybertrucks are less than what? I mean, the mass production of them, like the last 2 years, right? Yeah, because there was a big to do at SEMA this year. Like they all lined up. So let's just arguably say they really talk about their rebirthing or their bubble is within the last 2 years. Those things were cranking out at $130,000 purchase price. They are now people talk about loans. People are now trying to get out of their Cybertrucks, and they are in negative equity because they're getting at best 90 grand. 85, 80 grand for turning in a Cybertruck. So then they will turn in the truck to get something more reliable and functional for a daily, and they are in negative equity, my friend. So then if going to see you for a mortgage, can you imagine having a loan where they have a car, but you're wait, what's this other car loan? Oh, that's my negative equity from
car
turning my
loans.
other car in.
Do you guys have electric cars?
We have a hybrid. And
Hybrid.
we have the
XM.
BMW XM outside.
Label red.
Red label or
Label
label
red.
red? And then we did have the Riwalto.
Maybe it is red label. Maybe you're
done.
right.
And
Maybe it is red label.
Is that the only hybrid? And then we're thinking about the Urtus SE from Lambo.
Yeah, we are getting that.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a love-hate
How many
relationship.
Lambos do you guys have?
Right now, 5.
5 or 6?
5. 5.
Yeah, we had 6.
Yeah, the Riwalto would have made it 6.
Do you drive them
Yes.
every day?
Oh, no,
I haven't
not
driven
every
my
day.
cars in once Sharon takes over. And
So what do you do with them? I know you have that. You bring them.
We do car staging. So speaking of real estate,
do charity events?
It's a lot of staging for charity events, other event appearances, gotten a little bit into brokers opens, luxury listings for brochures, done a couple buildings in Manhattan for that luxury.
We try to do a lot of as much
modeling.
charity as we can all year.
But yeah, it's a lot of a platform. And then of course, just trying anything, create that other stream of income, hopefully with the podcast. Please follow, subscribe to Behind the Wheels podcast or Schwick Wheels.
Yeah,
to get
you
this-
understand?
that kind of thing.
Well, Uncle Billy's going to pay you a visit. You understand? In the demon at night.
So why don't you, because we need to get to Full Throttle because we got to respect Austin's time here. But let's talk about car depreciation and the realities
I did
of
Full
that.
Throttle all the way here.
I'm sure you did, babe.
Okay, when you turn on Wall Street in Pearl, before you get to the FDR, at the end there's like 1,000 people crossing the street. So they're suffocated there while there's a red light. So what did I do?
Oh, no.
I heard something on the radio. I'm like, wait a minute, I know that song. And it was Genie in a Bottle. Okay.
Christina Aguilera.
So I blasted
Gotta
it
rub me
and
the
rolled
right
down
way.
the windows. And everybody's like, everybody's walking by looking at the truck. I say, yo, make sure you subscribe. And I've got it on 40. I got it all the way up in the whole entire Wall Street. What? Listen.
Hey, listen.
Any way you can
Anyway
get
you get
attention,
it,
do
right?
it, right?
That's great.
Anywhere you want it. that's
Just don't
the way.
play Dying in the Rain by Deville, or what's her name? What's the...
I think you might be dating yourself a little bit.
Yes. Listen, I played Beat It last week in Manhattan on Park Avenue. Oh my God! One guy started dancing on the corner with an umbrella because it started to rain outside. Listen, I do it on purpose, man. Canal Street? Oh, forgot about it. Forgot it. Construction zones right there. 5-10 minute wait.
We should do a segment of like where in the world is Uncle Billy and like getting people to catch us in the Durango, tagging
Blasting
us.
his pop music.
Yes, dancing with Uncle Billy in the rain
So
and
what
his
I got-
graffitied out
What I want
Durango.
to start doing is like little skits every morning on the phone.
Oh my God!
But I need an iPhone and then send them to Bryce. Because there's guys out there that do little things, motivational things every morning, and people watch these guys, and I could do it better.
I would listen to you every day about like your
You know what I'm saying?
your life financial tip of the day and like what's going on today in the market. I would listen to you every day.
It don't matter
Content doesn't
what
matter.
people think about who you are. People only respect what they see and what they can touch in front of you. They don't respect the value and the sacrifice and the commitment and
That
the
is very
resilience,
true.
persistency and the consistency.
How long it took them
that
to get
came for you to get where you got, to sell a house, to do what you got to do, to make ends meet, to provide for your kids, and have some kind of security. The ultimate goal, everybody wants the ultimate goal, okay? To not have to work anymore and to be comfortable.
The ultimate freedom. Yeah.
The ultimate freedom is to not work on a hamster wheel anymore and get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and do what you want to do. That's the ultimate freedom. Everybody wants
Financial
that. If they
independence.
tell you
That
no,
book, what was that book from back in the day? Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
yeah, Rich Dad.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's what-
they
that's
made
what
a
got me in real
show.
estate.
They made a movie about it.
Well, so what was this? Well, I forget his name, but yeah, Kiyosaki.
Wow, you are good.
That
Dang.
got me into real estate because it was financial freedom where you're not punching a clock, being an entrepreneur. Yeah.
Rushing the world. Listen, I just came from a big class in Manhattan, right? And a guy, I said, listen, I gotta get out of here. You don't know my wife, okay? She's gonna fucking scream and curse.
Austin has been in team meetings with me.
Okay, and
Would you like to ask Austin a
no,
question
I
about
know
me?
already. I don't got. Listen, I'll tell everybody whatever they want. You better watch it. She's coming. And I told these guys, I gotta get out of here now. So I need some help here. So I was timing it. I had a timer on the desk. I gotta be out of here in 17 minutes, my man. I got a 90-minute drive. So I made it work.
Appreciate
But
that.
If you're a good person, right? We always say it's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice to people. You want to leave a
wanna
legacy.
be a nice person.
Right. And all these cars are beautiful in the homes, but it comes with a lot of responsibility, man. Day in and day out, 7 days a week. Bills are always coming in. The hits are always coming in the emails. It doesn't stop.
It doesn't stop.
So for you to keep all this, you must work 7 days a week.
That's
16,
what it is.
18 hours. Yeah.
Gotta grind it out. I always say too, and I think you operate in this kind of consultant way too, is, people may not remember what you say, but they remember the way how you make them feel. And so it's about creating that environment of confidence and integrity that like when they are ready, they know who to call and so forth and so on. So with that spirit, are you ready to go full throttle with us, Austin?
Let's do it.
Solano
Let's do
Prosperity
it.
Home Mortgage.
I don't know what it is, but let's do it.
Okay, it's basically just like a
Where's
fast.
your book?
I don't know where my book is. I'm not going to lie. That's the name of another podcast, which I do listen to. But but I have some of them on my phone and I've memorized them by now. So Full Throttle is basically just like our version of fast Q&A. Okay. There's no wrong answer. Okay. You just answer it the way you feel. Okay. And we'll just see what happens. All right. Okay.
Let's go.
Let's just start with a funny one. 2-door or 4-door?
2, but I need a 4. 2, but I have to have a 4.
It's temporary, my man.
You're ain't there yet.
You're rocking your 4-door lifestyle so far. That's fine. Do you prefer coupe or spiders?
Spider.
Cool.
Well,
a retractable hardtop.
No. In New York, coupe.
Yes.
I'm thinking of where I live. Florida,
Okay.
Spider.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Okay. Do you prefer custom paint or custom wrap?
Rap is new to me. Mm-hmm. And I do like the raps.
Yeah, they're fun. They're very creative.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
You can do
matte
things
look.
you can't do
Yeah.
with paint, yeah.
There's so many different things you
I
can
like
do.
the mats now.
Well, we're gonna.
But they're newish. They're
We're gonna
newish.
make you happy in the garage today.
All right.
Have you ever been pulled over?
Yes.
Do you remember the first time
Is
you
that
were
a
pulled
real
over?
question?
It's a new Full Throttle question. Thank you.
So, yes. And I got let go.
Oh, we got a warning.
I got a warning. But then there's been a few times where I've tried to outrun the cops.
No. Is this when you had the 911?
The Camaro
Shit.
on Route 9 going
With the upside down
going
air
up to
filter?
Poughkeepsie. No, that was the Caprice.
Oh, right.
And the cop pulls out. It was me and my friend in the back seat. And we see the cop. I'm like, fuck. So we're flying, thinking we're going to lose him because he sort of pulled out late, like he lost sight of us. But you could always see the little bit of lights. So we fly. All of a sudden, go figure, there's traffic. So we rip onto the shoulder,
No.
thinking we're going to.
Next
But then the
violation.
shoulder ended. He rolled up on us.
He must have been.
Bunch of fucking hands on the dash. So me and my friend in the front seat like this. My buddy was so scared in the back. He's trying to reach to the front, like he was getting a shot. More cops come. They separate us. But I'm telling you, we had 30 seconds. I said, guys, because I knew he lost sight of us. We were young and dumb. I said, guys, here's the story. It wasn't us. It was another white Camaro. Stick to right? So they separate us. They put me on the guardrail. But we all stuck. Officer, it wasn't us. It was another white Camaro. Why'd you pull on the shoulder? I says, I thought I was trying to pull over. I saw the lights. Do you know but he did lose sight of us. I don't know if he just got sick of us.
Right, because
So he gave me a
he
ticket.
did lose
He
sight
gave
of
us
you.
a speeding ticket.
Wow.
But he didn't give us.
It wasn't us. He gave you a speeding
Gave
ticket.
me a speeding ticket. He didn't give me whatever else he could have gave me. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was another
driving infractions.
1979 white
That's a lot of
Camaro.
points right there.
How
One time
old
we were in
you?
Connecticut. I was probably 18.
Wow.
And I, again, tried to lose the cop. I pulled him to a development thinking I lost him. He found me. And in Connecticut, radar detectors are not legal. You know, he made me run it over.
Really? That's kind of like sweet justice looking at it as a parent now. I'd be like, that's pretty awesome.
I would've refused
That's a
to do it.
great decision.
I
Natural
know, but it was
consequences.
either that or like I didn't want to, because I, again, tried to lose him.
That's hilarious. God. Do you remember the first time you were ever pulled over?
I've been pulled over quite a few times.
I was going to say. Will
Maybe
they give you a
cuffed a few
ticket in a
times.
Lamborghini?
No, that has not happened with us. Thank
I
God.
would never, as a cop, give
No.
someone a ticket in a
But
Lamborghini.
I got a ticket. I got tickets in my trucks. I got a lot of tickets
in the
in my
city.
trucks.
I mean, it's all
The
punk
city
stuff.
is very bad.
It's getting pulled on a 36 and a 25.
Did you
like,
know that? Did you know?
there ain't no bad boy
know this?
stuff going on here.
Do you know there's a law in New York City? If you idle more than 3 minutes,
Yeah.
that's $1,000 fine.
It's crazy.
So you know how they get you? So I'm like, so the guy tells me this morning, my general contractor I did a class with. I said, well, how do they know that? He goes, they go online on the website. If you go on their line on the website, he pulls up his phone and advertises. Take a 3-minute video for us. Somebody idle on their car, and we'll give you 25%
Kidding.
of the ticket. We'll give you
Wow.
$250.
Big Brother, boy. They're
So
Everywhere.
there's people walking around Manhattan, and they're catching them.
Yeah. I got 5 minutes left. I gotta go.
And they're videotaping. So you're paying to be a rat? Come on, man. Instead of getting a real job?
right. That's exactly it.
Disgusting, dude. It's disgusting.
Do you prefer Chevy or Dodge? Well, you're a Camaro.
Dodge Charger,
So you got like
Chevy, Chevy.
Yeah.
I gotta go.
Yeah, I mean, come on. The whole Camaro.
Yeah.
Sort of
Can
the
you
Charger.
believe that they discontinued
No, what was the other
Camaro?
Dodge? The Viper. Remember the Viper? I always had that.
We
I
had
want them to bring it back, man.
Oh, please. You had a Dodge Viper ACR.
No.
Yes, we did. We had a Dodge Viper
No,
ACR.
we did not.
We had a Dodge Viper ACR.
Yeah, that's an old one, though.
It was a 2009.
But
It was
that's when
one
they
of
were
two.
popular. I remember my buddy had one, and I was like, what?
Yeah, I sold it.
What do you mean old? Viper only lived for a certain amount of time.
Until 2000.
That's what I'm saying. But that was when, yeah, it was back in the day. But no,
Yeah, but I don't like it, though.
Yeah, he's trying to say, you see the gaslighting I go through here? We didn't have one.
they were loud.
What?
Well, I also told you I was the first person to COVID. I don't know.
Not the first person to go.
Now, if they come out with a new Dodge Viper, I'll get that one.
It'll be electric, though. You know they had electric
No, they stopped. They're stopping electric.
electric charger down on
I've
202.
seen
Yeah, they
it.
backed out of it.
But
I've
it was
seen it.
$80,000 for this thing. It was beautiful, but they piped in the noise.
No, I
Yes,
know
they
that. I know
do.
that. I took it. I took it for a ride.
Did
on
you?
Yes,
my
they
plane.
do.
Yeah. It's horrible.
Is it really? Yeah.
They make
It's
it sound like a
ridiculous.
heavy-duty engine from an airplane. It's crazy.
Right.
But they're getting away with electric. They stopped it already. Their car sales plummeted.
Really?
They fired the president of Dodge, and they brought back the
Oh.
guy that used to build all the Hellcats. So they're coming out with 25 new products in the next year.
All right.
We asked
They're bringing back the Challenger and the Charger.
Austin what his first car was. What was your first ever car?
My first car was a Cadillac.
See?
16 years
No
old.
wonder he's got the nice
What
cars.
kind of
I
Cadillac?
bought it at a Hess gas station
Yeah.
on 233rd and White Plains Road for $500.
God, I remember that.
Wow. What year?
The guy couldn't pay his rent,
Yeah.
and I was coming back from work that night, working a double shift. I had $1,100 on me, and he had to tie up to this car. He was with his wife and kid. He was at a Hess gas station on 233rd and White Plains Road. It's still there. It's off White Plains Road. It's like White Plains Road's here, and it's one block down. And he said, I want $500 for it. It's used. It's got 40-something thousand miles on it. It was huge, the big old one.
Yeah.
And I needed a car. I had a baby. I had two kids
Oh,
at
yeah.
the time.
Oh, William and Brian at the time.
Yeah, I was 17. No, I
Yeah.
had one kid at the time, 17.
okay.
So I bought it for $500. I got about a year out of it.
Wow.
Hey.
And
That's a
I-
good $500.
33rd
I had
and
no
White Plains.
insurance, no registration,
Yeah,
nothing on it.
That sounds
I
like
couldn't
him.
afford it.
You know, I
So
broke
if you want
down.
to be honest,
No
Sam,
W-2s, no
No,
taxes.
I got W2 and no-
even then for the car.
I made $8 an hour.
Where is your favorite place to drive? Like if you're just cruising, relaxing, what's your favorite? It could be a state, it could be a certain highway.
Palisades.
Yes, that is a nice drive.
Just talking about that. My neighbor.
Yeah.
If we do like a rally, you know, you rent a Lamborghini, we would want to do Palisades because it's not congested. It's just windy enough.
it's nice.
Taconic's fine.
It's very dangerous.
They had to
It's
shut
very
down the other
narrow.
day for a couple of days.
Well, yeah.
Four people.
Right between Austining
Four
and
people
here.
died.
Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid, I'm going north, cars coming south, or not me. My friend's going north, cars coming south. The tire comes off. I just told the story. It hit the windshield, and my friend's took his head not off, but yeah, Marty died. We were kids. He died.
I'm so sorry.
Taconic is just an. You know when you come up in Putnam Valley, it's brutal.
The Taconic is bad. There's a lot of deaths
with that-
over the years.
Yeah, so there was a recent death on the Taconic going northbound between Austining and
Exit 6
Yorktown.
and 8.
What seemed to have happened is a Sprinter van was coming the wrong direction, left the southbound lane, crossed the median, and went into the northbound lanes. 4 people died, except the driver of the Sprinter van. The 3, I believe it's 2 or 3 people in his van
Died.
and the driver of the other vehicle in the northbound lane. And I think maybe they said a 5th person died after.
Oh, really?
But I don't want to disclose that as 100%, but I do believe maybe a 5th person
Well,
has
you know
died.
what? If he stays alive, he's just gonna. It was meant for that to happen for him to suffer the rest of his life. because you killed 5 people.
And I will say that's the whole motto of Schwick Wheels is ride together, stay together, live forever. That is all based, I have chills, from the Taconic. Yeah. We are returning from Mamaroneck, from one of our very first car shows. And we are driving northbound and it's stopped. And when we finally get to it, we actually had a friend of ours who knew we were out for a car show and actually was stuck in the same traffic as us later because he was coming home from Long Island and he was afraid it was us. There was a family of brothers and cousins, 3 guys in different Dodge Chargers or Challengers, and all 3 they were doing whatever they were doing. Mm-hmm. And the youngest one, the 19-year-old who's driving an SRT engine, probably doesn't know how to handle himself. He went up and over and like the guardrail and the car up and over. And
it's one fear, my 2 older ones. I mean, thank God my son has a pickup now, but that's it, it's.
Listen, you have to use judgment. You have to use good judgment.
You do, but as a kid.
Well, you know what? Even if your kid's 19 years old, okay, you have to teach him that this is the right way to do things, man. Absolutely. Because he's gonna, if he doesn't, he's gonna wind up hurting it.
Yeah.
Favorite car movie or favorite movie that has big influence of cars?
You know what? It's that old movie, Smoking the Bandit.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. It's nice to say that.
I was gonna say Fast Furious, but that's too.
No,
I have to
too
go
unrealistic.
Because that Trans Am, the black,
Yes.
especially because I was a kid.
I love it.
Right? I was a kid.
Can't get him anymore
And
anyway.
when I saw that,
Pontiac.
Yeah.
I hope Pontiac somehow has a rebirth
What
of
was
somehow.
the one where they it was like a rally, like they had all these fancy cars and
The gumball rally thing type.
It was
But there's a movie.
There's a movie with Dean Martin and all the stars, Frank Sinatra.
Yes.
Sammy Davis Jr.
Ocean's 11.
Cannonball Run.
Cannonball Run. There we go. That's another one.
Look at you guys pulling it out of there.
Nice, Bill.
Cannonball Run.
Nice
They made
job.
2 of those.
Yes.
They made 2 Smokey and the Bandits.
Yeah.
Jackie Gleason was the star with a police officer.
Yeah. Good stuff.
That was a beautiful car back then. That's how Sally Field and Burt Reynolds got their stardom.
Yeah.
That's a very cute kissing scene too. In that Bandit.
Way back.
I hate talking about that movie. Jeez.
It's a sweet
We
movie.
feel old.
Well,
old.
This has been Behind the Wheels at
thank
Schwick
you.
Wheels Podcast. Thank you, Austin.
Thank you, guys.
Austin Throttle
Awesome.
of Prosperity Home Mortgage for coming into the Behind the Wheels Podcast today. I'm Shari Schwick.
Uncle Billy.
This is Uncle Billy. We've taken you behind the wheels. Ride together, stay together. We'll see you on the road. Shut up. And it's, I'm so glad to have a real friend here today because I'm so sorry to show you that it really is a shit show.
Yeah.
Here. Come on.
Thanks for tuning in to the Behind the Wheels podcast.
Don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe, and comment to this video. Austin Salato, everybody, from Prosperity Home